So hello, Suraj, and welcome everybody for our next session with our lovely teacher, elder, wise woman, therapist, Suraj here. Today we are going to talk about the child wound, about how when we were little, we were wounded, we got scared, we built all these belief systems that are now in our day-to-day life showing up as disruptive factors, as behaviors that we don't understand, as suddenly getting angry, lashing out, or withdrawing because we are getting scared. So we're going to discuss today with Suraj why this is, where this wounding comes from, and what we can do specifically to overcome these wounds, or to at least start working with them and look them in the eye, and how from that we can transform our inner demons into our inner wisdom and our inner potential and fully unfold from there. So stay tuned if you're interested, and we have a beautiful half hour ahead with our friend Suraj.
We have wounds. We call them wounds. It's like parts of us inside that have been so hurt, often when we're very, very young. And it was so painful when it happened that we've covered it up. It's like we can't go back in there, because if we touch in there, we're so afraid it will hurt too much. And so we cover it over and we create our personalities around that. So we don't want to show our vulnerability. We see it like as a weakness, or it's like a very soft spot, but it's a bit like we put a scab over it and we pretend it's not there. And often consciously we're not aware that it's there. So sometimes something will happen with something in our life that will really press into that place, and we will just react. It's a total reaction. And sometimes the trigger is just because it's been boiling underneath for so long. It might be something very simple that's said to you, especially with someone that is close to you in your family, your partner or your child or your mother or your father or your best friend. They just have to say something and it will trigger that place, or it might happen in the workplace. And our natural tendency is to defend ourselves, so we can defend ourselves in different ways. So sometimes we will, these are sort of classic things. We will hit out, we will retaliate very strongly, or we might move away, like sort of run away, like close down and leave. If we're threatened, it's a threat. We perceive it as a threat. Other times we might just numb out, and some people become frozen and they don't really know if they go right into that primary wound. They almost can't speak. So these are it triggers us in very strong ways, and we're not aware of what is happening. It's normally later we think about it and we think, gosh, why did I react like that? And that's also the painful part, because then we feel so much remorse, and we feel guilt and shame. Shame, which is such a shame is sort of one of the deeper emotions, and that shame we put it inside us often. So then what we've pushed out, we then bring back, and we sort of blame ourselves for it. Why did I do that? I'm so bad. I've really hurt that person. So every time that we, as we grow up, I guess we realize that every time we hurt someone else, we hurt ourselves, really. It's ourselves, and everything comes back to us, and we're the ones that feel bad after it. And in a way, the other person will deal with it within their own wound. Their own wound may come up too, because we take everything so personally. So we mirror each other, and that's how we sort of lock into relationships. One of it, we love the other person because we see something in them that we think we don't have, and actually it is in us, but it's so hidden. And then once that starts to come out in us, sometimes we fall out of love because we don't need that in the other person anymore.
So, and often enough we find the other person who is exactly the same opposite wounding, so it fits together. They provide the trigger over and over for us, and we provide the trigger over and over for them.
I even see that in my teaching, that a lot of the people that come to me are people that hold similar wounds to what I have or had as a child, so somehow they're attracted, the wound attracts the wound, and then you can work from that place. And we seem to be put in these situations to bring it up over and over, so that we can see it, and then it can start to heal. You know, it's seeing it as part of it, and the other part is actually feeling it, because we've closed it down. And it's when we go into that wound, it's never as painful as what we've made it. We've built it up into something so big that when you touch into it, it's a bit like a balloon we've blown up. We've built it so big, and when we touch into it, it's like that balloon just pops. And yes, there is pain in there, but it just softens. It just softens and dissolves out, you know.
And if we think where it comes from, I mean, that it happened when we were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old most of the time. It really was a big deal then. We were so little, and those other big people were so big, and it was so all-encompassing, right? So no wonder it's become this massive emotional thing.
Yeah, it happens when we're so young that we can't process it really. It's like when it's almost like it's when one of your primary needs isn't met. It might be, you know, in the first 2 years of your life. Maybe your mother's not there for you one day, you know, she's busy doing something else or whatever, and you don't get fed when you're hungry. And your mother is your lifeline, you know, when you're a baby. So you have this need to be fed and the need to attach to your mom. And you also have the need to cry and express your need. So it's like the authentic part of you that wants to express, and then the part of you that really needs the attachment. So those two things, from when you're very, very young, that's almost the tussle we have that goes through our whole life. It's like with your best friend, you want to stay connected. You want to feel the attachments, you know, this love, this relationship you have. But if you're authentic, if you're truly authentic, then that person may reject you, you know. So you try and connect into them in a way that you lose yourself. And that starts from when you're so young. And that's how we start to create these defense systems to protect us from the hurt or the pain or not having our needs met.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I read recently, actually just the last few days, was this, and I bet you've come across this whole like avoiding our inner demons and avoiding that pain, like you've just said, but that there is this Greek model of the daemon that is related to the demon. So the one is the evil, bad part that we try to avoid in life. The daemon, however, is our genius and where our biggest potential lies. And that taking the demon and actually looking at it and seeing what sits underneath and releasing that pain then brings out the daemon, and often brings out, like you were saying before, often there's the deepest potential sitting right underneath their wound. As a teacher, you are attracting people who are attracted to the same wounding because through what you have learned and where you have come to, you can teach. Wouldn't have been possible if you hadn't had the wound in the first place. Yeah. Let's hear a little bit more about that. I bet that's something that comes out quite often, right?
It's like every experience is an experience that we need that experience, you know, to take the next step in our life. It's like we're on a journey of love, you know, so that we are love, really underneath everything. We are love, pure love. And yet we have all these demons in there that we've set up to protect us in a way. So in a way, the demon can be your protector. It's even like an addiction, like you know, you might turn to alcohol or shopping or, you know, your computer games, whatever it is that you're using all the time to avoid the painful part of you. And it's almost like that's your demon in a way, because it's protecting you from going into the painful part of you, but it's not serving you long term. And so to face it and go into it is the way that we heal. We're so afraid of feeling pain. We so much want to be comfortable all the time. And it's a mirage. It's an illusion. We couldn't possibly lead a life. We would be so bored if we were comfortable all the time, you know, because what's life but our challenges, really? Mm-hmm. And it's the challenges that bring out the daemon, our spirit. You know, when we have to fight for ourselves, it's like, let's go for it here, because it's like we'd fight for our child, or we'd fight for our partner maybe sometimes, you know. It's like when that's a force that's within us that's also protective.
Exactly.
There's really no good or bad. We like to put things in boxes. This is good, this is bad. It's not really like that at all. So even your demons, we need to face them. Like if we're reaching for something, whether it's food because we can't handle this message that came in on our email, or what we saw on Instagram, you know, so we reach for something to eat or something to drink, or it's like, just stop and just be with the feeling that you're feeling. It's all we really have to do. That's living. that's what is life. It's actually living and being able to experience our feelings. And then life starts to open, I think. Well, that's what happened to me. I was so shut off from my feelings, and especially what was happening in my body. And it was like being a sort of a ghost, you know, where you function very well. You can be very successful. You're doing everything very well. You've got family and relationship and all the things that are meant to make a happy life. But underneath, you feel so empty, and it's like there's no joy, and you've lost connection with yourself. So it's like how to tap back into your own self. It's so scary to go into yourself, you know, and yet you've got to live in this place your whole life. So it's like, start now. But
so how do we start? Like, for someone who is watching, who maybe resonates with what you just said, like just those last few sentences you spoke, they are so powerful. It's like, we have everything, we have achieved everything we wanted. We are kind of where we were told we should get to be happy. And yet we're not happy. Something is missing, something is wrong, something is just off. This is often when people come to see you, would come see me. So what's the first step?
Well, I think the first step is to just breathe. You know, I know that sounds trite maybe, but it's almost like to slow down, to just slow down everything, because we realize that all our driving, we're so afraid to slow down because then we think we might become inconsequential. You know, like if we're not this person with this outside persona and success, and if our friends are not impressed by us almost, it's like we feel we'll lose ourselves. But in fact, that is not us. That is just something we've built around ourselves to make us feel safe. So this process of coming inside, I mean, if I say the breath, I think the thing that is to do something you love, you know, to actually at every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes, do something you love, whether it is to go into the garden and for yourself, you know, so go and pick a flower and put it beside your bed or beside your cooking place or whatever, or just go and smell the roses, or go and swim in the water, or read a beautiful quote, or just sit with yourself. It's like, do whatever makes your heart sing. We have to connect back into the heart. You know, so many people are trying to be something outside, but actually there isn't really anything outside that's as important as what's inside you. And we all hold a living heart. And I don't mean from a spiritual perspective even. I just mean there's this place inside you that's tender and soft and caring and kind and loving and wants the best for yourself and for everyone, actually. Like in our innermost heart, we're so interconnected with each other. We really care about each other. We really care about life and nature and humanity, but we've covered it over so much with our sort of self-improvement, our desire to be something more than that. And yet that is the basis of who we are. So how you can come back into that through a small child. You can come back into that through your breath and your body. You can come back into that by doing a sport you love, by playing music that you love. Anything that brings you into a state of not being in separation.
And it's being present as well, isn't it? Like being in that moment when you are taking that time. And what I'm hearing is when you're talking about the breathing and about those slowed down activities, it's really reducing all the noise, all the drama, everything that's going on the outside, and coming back to I am, and I'm here, and I'm now. And just be in that for a little moment, that there's not so much distraction from what actually is essential.
Yes, you know, there's so much talk about this, the I am, the being present, and until we really experience it, I think it's difficult because, most of the time we're in our mind and we're either in the past and creating stories around the past and trying to make sense of it and trying to put it together in a different way, and or we're in the future and we're just, we're really concerned because at the moment the future is the unknown, and that's becoming more and more clear, even though it's always been that way. And so to just actually be present with yourself, we feel we're going to lose an opportunity, miss an opportunity, or something will happen and we won't know it. And, or yes, that we'll be unprepared, or unsafe in that present moment. But it is the place where you are. So it's really from that place, you can then go into a strategy or a thinking mind. But you need to start in that still point of, we call it 0 point, still point, the shunya, there's many words for it, but that place of stillness within you. And, we can just sit for a moment and experience that right now. It's simply, let's just take a few moments to just close our eyes and just gently close your eyes. And if you can, be sitting straight. And let your body become still. And just feel the flow of your breath in your body. So you can feel your body. You can feel your breath as if your breath is entering you. Your body is receiving the breath. And bring it right down. As you bring it in, bring it right down, around your navel point, even lower. And as you breathe out, just let the breath go out into all the different parts of your body. And then gently inhale again. And exhale. And there's no effort here. There's no effort. There's no need to try to create any sort of effect. Just awareness of your breath and your body. And you'll find if your body becomes still, your mind will become still. Your thoughts will slow down. You can feel the base of your body on the ground. You might feel the sensation of your skin, the air on your skin. And as you feel your breath, also feel your heart. And you can feel it as your physical heart, or you can simply feel that middle part of your chest as if there's a living heart there. And just allow whatever feelings come up. You might feel uncomfortable, or you might feel peaceful. You might feel curious. Just go deeper into your heart, a little deeper. Just imagine it, that your heart is there. You're inside. You can look around. Or you can just feel the beat, the heartbeat of you. And you're still aware of your breath. And you're aware of the air around your body. And then just gently open your eyes. There's a stillness within you that's always there. And all the movement comes through it, all the drive and the action, the emotion, the feelings. It all comes out of the stillness. So that stillness is always there. And it's a place that you can always return to. And I think this is difficult for us because we always go out instead of in. So it's sort of learning to be able to go inside instead of always trying to find something outside to distract us. And sometimes we're afraid to go inside because of the wounds that we hold. It's like we don't want to feel ourselves because we don't like ourselves. You know, we're stuck on this belief about ourselves that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we're not successful enough. We're too selfish, we're greedy, we're stupid, whatever that belief is that we have taken on when we were very, very young. And that belief it's not the shadow, it's what we'd call the hidden self. It's so deeply hidden, but it controls our whole life because everything we do is to try and negate that belief.
So how do you find these in your work? Because obviously what we're just saying is they are unconscious beliefs. It's not something that we are aware of. We are only aware of all those weird behaviors we have that somehow don't seem to make sense, but they're almost like circling around that black hole that nobody can see, right? So how do you, through your work, actually find those hidden beliefs? Like what can people do to make the unconscious conscious?
When you're triggered, say, when you notice you've been triggered, then just find a time. Sometimes you can't do it when you've just been triggered, you're in something, but find a time later and sit with it and go into the feeling in your body. So it's not the story, oh, she did that to me, or he did that, or he didn't do that, or whatever. It's more like, what am I actually feeling inside? So often we get mixed up because we think our perceptions are our feelings. You know, it's like, I'm feeling, you could even say I'm feeling unsafe is a perception. It's a perception. It's just a story you've created because you're feeling pain or shame or guilt or sadness. And therefore it's to come back to that core of what is really happening. I'm feeling sad. Why am I feeling sad? Because I don't feel, you ask yourself, why? You know, actually, why is not the right question. It's more like the sadness, what is it? The feeling of it, the feeling of it, the feeling of it. And then you will find your hidden belief. If you say, well, it's because I was hurt. Well, what's underneath the hurt? Underneath the hurt, what am I feeling underneath the hurt? I'm feeling that I'm not, maybe that I'm not good enough. And then you'll say, okay, so you feel like you're not good enough. What is underneath the not good enough? I'm not good enough because I was abandoned. I feel abandoned. I was abandoned. Then you could go under that and you keep on going underneath. So, you know, often there's this feeling of not existing, that I don't really exist. And that's often when you're shut down as a child. You know, if your mother or your father didn't listen to you when you were hurt, you know, they might have said, you'll be okay, and got you up and get on with it, you know, which is very easy for us as parents to do. And it's like, but what about me? I'm hurting and you're not seeing me. So they feel unseen, unrecognized. And often we have this as our wound, that, you know, our parents weren't there for us when we needed them. They might have had just their mind might have been somewhere else, or emotionally they might not have been able to handle our emotions, so they shut us down. And so underneath we have this core fear that we don't really exist. So we're always trying to substantiate ourselves, and that's why we need to be successful and we need to be seen, you know, and we need approval from our friends and from society that we're doing the right thing, that we're a good person, that we have value. Because underneath we have this core fear that there's no worth in who we are, or That really we're not tangible. We want to make ourselves tangible all the time. And we're not, because we're not solid. Sorry.
What are ways to improve that self-worth? I mean, that might actually be a whole video in and of itself as well that we might touch on at a later stage. But what are simple things that we can do? Again, somebody who's watching and wants to support themselves in that way.
The most simple way, there's many ways to try and work with it, but I think many of them, I think the most simple way is to actually accept it, to see it and accept it, and then look at it in relation to your life. So become more and more aware of how you're living your life, what you're doing. It's like if you need your partner to tell you he loves you every day, then maybe you've got a low self-worth, that you don't feel loved enough to be able to hold your own love inside you. If you need reinforcement from your children, you need to have, your child needs to be your friend. You're the parent, so it's like it's not helpful for the child if you tell them all your problems or all your stresses or all your so these sorts of things, especially a young child, they'll feel overwhelmed and they're parenting their parent. So when we're doing things like that, when we become aware of them, we realize, oh, this is about how I feel about myself. So then it is to really be able to sit with that. Don't try and change it. It's not like going around and using an affirmation, I am good enough. It actually won't work, because this is in your subconscious. The feeling that you're not good enough or that you're not worthy is in your subconscious. So you need to feed yourself love. You need to feed yourself. It's like stop judging yourself so harshly. Start to feed yourself. Be generous to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. Acknowledge your vulnerability and these hurt places inside you, because they're so beautiful. Really, that's who you are. That's what makes you a human. And we try to sort of become robots, We're humans, and we're never going to be perfect. And our lives are always going to be challenging and sometimes chaotic. And that is the human life. And we're always trying to make everything calm and perfect and organized and controlled, and it will never be like that outside you. So it's like a continual torment, and that's really what we call suffering. So it's like, to go beyond it is to actually just go, I have limitations as a human being. I am limited, and yet because of those limitations, I also have enormous gifts. It's like, you meet somebody who's very unusual. They're fascinating because they're just, you see their gift. They might have some other things that are totally inappropriate socially, or they might be extremely intelligent and really not be able to meet you because their brain is somewhere else. But you can see their gift, and it's like we all have these different gifts, and we're just an interplay. So we're always trying to compete with others, or, but it's such a waste of energy, because you must bring it into you. That's what I mean by your breath. Bring your breath into you, bring life into you, start to live your life, start to feel yourself. As soon as you're worrying about someone else, you're not in your own body. You're sort of half in theirs. So bring yourself back into yourself. It's not selfish. It's you can only really offer yourself to someone else if you have this love for yourself, this sort of joy within yourself. And if something goes wrong, that goes wrong. It's like, okay, that's life. It's not that I did something wrong. It's not that I caused that or he caused that. It's that's just life.
And as an adult, it's also not as much of a big deal. I think this is where we come full cycle when we're looking at that child wound, because as a child, getting it wrong, being told off, feeling maybe now they don't love me anymore was such an existential crisis. That's like a threat to life in the mind of a 2, 3, 4-year-old. Versus now as adults, yes, we can get it wrong. So then we can apologize, or we can set it right. Or sometimes we might just be an idiot and not set it right. And somehow we have survived this too, right? So this is where we need to graduate from that child consciousness into the adult consciousness into almost like being our own parent now, and take the mature stance and learn to be okay with that. Thank you so much, Suraj. Timing wise, it's time to finish this session, but I've really appreciated it, and I trust that people who have been able to watch this today will see that there are many different ways, and that often the beauty of the work you do is that it really comes back to simple things. It's not rocket science. It's not like having to spend thousands of dollars and years on self-development, to just come back to those simple truths. And that basically all we really need is already within us, and we just need to tap into our own resources and become more aware of, again, what's on the inside.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, we're going to see each other again soon, and share more interesting information. So folks, if you have loved this session, make sure that you follow our channel and that you click the bell button to get updates when we are releasing the next little piece of content. And we're going to have more interesting stuff from Suraj very soon. Thank you so much.